So you're only a few weeks away from coming to Baltimore. What's going through your mind? How are you preparing?
Believe it or not. Well, first way I think is a prayer, spiritually. I think one of the most important things we can do at a juncture like this is to give thanks. Thanks to the Lord for the blessing of years, to echo Cardinal Sheehan's own memoirs, and at the same time to ask the Lord's help for the years ahead and for the blessings I already know exist in Baltimore, and to some extent the challenges that I know about. Just to ask the Lord to help me to be open, to be virtuous, to be loving and kind, and ready to serve. So that's the first and most important thing. And then, of course, there's a certain amount of study. You have a lot of homework to do, to begin to learn a new place. It's just the beginning, but and that includes meetings with priests, meetings with the auxiliary bishops, getting to know a little bit about the staff, just enough that you can dip your big toe in the water.
I know you went to Mount St. Mary's and you were auxiliary bishop in Washington, so you must have some familiarity with Baltimore. Would that help?
I do. I did go to the Mount back in the 70s. Of course, a lot has changed, and I'm on the board of the Mount still. And so that's familiar territory. As a priest of Washington and later auxiliary, there was a lot of interaction. I was part of the Maryland Catholic Conference. Cardinal Hickey and Cardinal Keeler were wonderful friends, and there was a lot of reason to come up to Baltimore. And then Baltimore's just such a nice city that I would come up with, for example, my parents or friends when they would come to visit, just to go out to eat or to visit the Inner Harbor, to visit Paca Street, or of course the Basilica when it was being renovated. Mm-hmm. So there is familiarity, but of course a lot to learn.
What is your impression of Baltimore?
Well, let me give my impression of the whole Archdiocese. Baltimore City is beautiful, interesting place. It's got many urban problems, but it's got a rich history. And one of the things you can't miss about Baltimore is it's the first diocese of the United States. You're succeeding Archbishop John Carroll. It's very, very unique in that way. It's got urban problems. It's got the problems of rural areas that one might expect to find. But I think in addition to the problems, there are many more strengths. My impression of it is a very vital community of faith. It's got great dedication on the part of its priests, religious and lay leaders. It has a strong vocations program on which to build. Many, many strengths. And I really look forward to getting to knowing the Archdiocese better and serving it with as much dedication as I can.
Will you be doing a lot of traveling out west and down south in the Archdiocese?
Looks to me like I will. It's always important. When I came here, I did my best to visit all the parishes. Of course, there's many more parishes in Baltimore. It will take longer. But I would like very much to begin after the installation to visit with a priest, and then to do regional masses, and then to really start getting out there. And of course it's much bigger geographically, Baltimore is, than Bridgeport, the diocese is. So I'll spend a little more quality time in the car. Mm-hmm. And it's a good thing I like to read in the car and get a little bit of work done in the car because I'll need to do that. At the same time, I'd say Maryland's a beautiful state, and the part I really need to know much better is really Western Maryland, not Frederick or Hagerstown, but getting out, to
Cumberland,
yes, and the far western parts of the diocese. It's going to be a lot of fun to discover all of that.
And it's beautiful out there. The mountains are gorgeous.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
How did you decide to become a priest? How did you hear the call to the priesthood?
Way back when. I was really in elementary school. In those days, you got confirmed. I think I was in the 4th grade. Archbishop Schulte of Indianapolis was asking questions during confirmation. And some time after that, I think it was very shortly after confirmation, the thought just occurred to me that I ought to be a priest. And while I thought of a lot of other things, the thought of the priesthood stuck with me. Fortunately, met many fine priests as I was growing up who modeled the priesthood for me, and the thought of becoming a priest grew stronger and stronger, and the church confirmed my vocation, and 35 years later I've never looked back. Never looked back. I wake up happy every morning to be a priest.
What gives you happiness the most in the priesthood?
Oh my goodness. First of all, the being able to mediate Christ's love. As I said this morning in the homily, a love strong enough to survive the grave. It's the joy of listening to and proclaiming God's Word. It's the joy of celebrating Mass. It's really the heart of the day, every day. And then ministering to people, whether it's penitents or the sick, young people, discerning the course of their lives. It's just a great joy to be a priest, and I could not imagine doing anything else with my life.
I know you're from the Midwest, and you went to the Mount, and it seems like you've been drawn to the East Coast. How did that happen? How did you?
That's kind of an odd thing. I probably, if I were doing it today, it would all turn out differently, but maybe the Lord was just sort of prodding me along. But I happened to meet a great vocation director in Washington, now Bishop William E. I was, looking about, and he was always on the outlook for good seminarians. I don't know that I was a good one, but he took me right in, and we became fast friends, and we are dear friends to this day. And as I've said to Bishop Curlin many times, he is the priest in my life. He exemplifies the pastoral love that the church documents speak about and that Christ came to bring. So he's wonderful, wonderful priest and bishop mentor.
How did the Mount shape your priesthood? Do you have any special memories?
Yes. I'd begin with priestly friendships, lifelong priestly friendships. There are priests I remain dear friends with to this day, 35 years later, one of whom happens to be the rector of the Mount, Monsignor Walls, Father Phil Widman, Father Tom Schoback, and others that I was lucky enough to be formed to be a priest with. The rector, then Father Harry Flynn, now Archbishop Harry Flynn, really modeled priestly virtue. Father Anthony Minocchio, God rest him, was a Vietnam chaplain 3 times over, gentlest soul in the world, great model for priesthood, was my spiritual director. I think of Monsignor Mulligan, James Mulligan, priest of Allentown. Gave a retreat to the priest of Allentown maybe 2 years ago. and there was Jim Mulligan still going strong. So it was a great combination of terrific priests. It was a turbulent time in the church. These priests had great common sense and great classmates who have been friends all these years. And the Mount itself, just a special place where Mother Seton walked the earth. Simon Boutet, you think of these giants in the life of the church, and you know you're on holy ground when you're up at the mountain.
Mm-hmm. No, the Archdiocese has more than 200 years of history, but you're the first Mountie to be head of the Archdiocese. How does that make you feel?
Pretty humble. Of course, Monsignor Rolfs doesn't let me have any, take too much pride in anything. I remember there's at the Mount, right outside the Immaculate Conception Chapel, there's this sort of a plaque with the names of all the Mount Seminary graduates who became bishops. And when it was put up, he took me to show it to me. He pointed to my name and he said, "The amazing thing is that no one has defaced your name yet." So Monsignor Rolfs is keeping me plenty humble. But gosh, it's a great honor. And I'm also blessed. I mean, we have the oldest seminary in the United States in St. Mary's in Roland Park. Many of my priest friends have gone to Roland Park. One of my classmates in Washington, Father Matysek Jr, God rest him, who was a great down-to-earth priest and pastor, always cut to the chase, wonderful priest. Bishop Curlin himself is a graduate of the Mount. My first pastor, Father Neil Ward, God rest him. A great priest friend of mine, Father Gabriel Duffy, Washington. Monsignor Ernie Gatta, they were all Mountain guys. A lot of the Mountain guys here in the Diocese of Bridgeport. And so I feel great, strong connections to the Mount. The rector there, Father Tom Hurst, had been rector of the Theological College when I was in D.C. Great scripture man, great missionary, wonderful exemplar of the priesthood. Father Larry Tarian, who headed the Sulpicians, also a former rector of TC. He's at St. Mary's in Roland Park. Father Tom Olshafer, priest of Washington, Sulpician, he's there. So I feel very much at home at the Mount, at St. Mary's. Forgive me for that slip, but very much at home at St. Mary's, and look forward to doing everything I can also to help it as it goes forward into the future.
You've had great success here in calling forth vocations. I'm sure that's going to be a priority in Baltimore. How do you do that?
Oh my goodness. First is pray. Pope Benedict said to me once when I was there with Carl Anderson, the Supreme Knight, he said, we have to pray for vocations. And prayer is really the first step. And so never a day goes by without prayer. Never a day goes by without asking for vocations, praying for my seminarians. And secondly, it's personal involvement. I always say to the vocation director, I don't care who's in my office. If you have a viable candidate for the seminary, knock on the door, I want to meet him. Sometimes it's dinners that we share, visiting the seminaries. When I'm in the parish, I'll often ask the pastor, you got anybody who is a potential seminarian? Have to have a strong vocations program that gives the guys opportunities to discern a vocation. Here I do a yearly vocations retreat for older gentlemen, college age and above, thinking about it. Also, we do a program for the younger guys. And I think you have to plant that seed often and early. So yes, it's going to be a big priority. And today I think you saw them all coming up to communion, and that excludes the Roman guys. They're over in Rome. Mm-hmm. I think it makes the priest feel really good to see that there's young guys who want to spend their life doing what they've done. And we have really good seminarians in Baltimore. I've met some of them already, and I'm going to pray that with God's help of my pastors and parish priests, religious deacons, and really great moms and dads, that we're going to add to the number.
I know a lot of the work we've done in parish and school planning here is sort of paralleling what's going on in Baltimore and probably mm-hmm. all along the East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think that experience is going to help you as you deal with? You're going to be confronted with some difficult decisions as soon as you arrive.
I imagine so. I don't pretend to know in any detail what I will soon discover in the Archdiocese of Baltimore. I suspect, though, I'm going to find challenges not unlike I've met here in Bridgeport. Like Baltimore, Bridgeport is a manufacturing town. A lot of that is gone. There's new growth in Bridgeport. A lot of hard efforts to a revival. Many newly arrived people here in the city of Bridgeport. It's always been a city of hard-working immigrants. I think Baltimore's been that kind of a city too. So I look forward to consulting with those who know the situation well and doing everything I can to keep the church vital, present in Bridgeport, at the same time positioned to be where it needs to be. Same is true out in the counties of Baltimore, of Archdiocese. Whether there's growth or whether there's contraction, there will be a need to listen, study carefully, pray, and consult again, and make some good decisions in God's grace.
Was there one thing that you learned in the process here that maybe you weren't expecting to learn?
I don't know that I was totally surprised by anything, but I certainly learned the value of consultation. One of the things that made the process go so well here was the involvement of the priests. And their input, their wisdom. We didn't rush into it. We went through 2 rounds of consultation. But I think their input was invaluable. The input of the laity was valuable. When we met with parish leaders, and then I met with each parish leadership team, I learned a lot. And it served to modify the decision. The important thing is not to make decisions till you've done the consultations. And certainly that was served us well here, and I suspect it will serve us all well in Baltimore.
How did Bridgeport get so many blue ribbon schools? You're the envy of a lot of dioceses.
Well, we have 40%, and this year if we get one more, it's 43% of our total number of blue ribbon. That means you're in the 10% of all schools, public and private, across the nation in your test scores and other factors. God's grace, I'm sure. I put out an ad a couple of years ago in the New York Times, of all places, and who responds to it but Dr. Margaret Dames, a great educational leader. She just energized everybody. Principals, teachers, staff, school parents, right down to the kids. And she brought a passion for excellence. She right away got us mapping our curriculum, including our religion curriculum. She did leadership training. She put the schools that were in need sort of in the intensive care unit. And before we knew it, test scores were skyrocketing. I love Catholic schools. It's not a problem for me to be directly involved with them. And we can honestly say to our parents, we have a product second to none. And yes, you have to make a financial sacrifice, but it's worth it. And so this year our enrollment went up 5%. Not saying we don't have to struggle. We do. But God has been good.
How do you keep tuition in check? I know in Baltimore that's been a big concern, and you've got the capital campaign to try to help with that.
Sure, not easy. Not easy. A lot of parents making a big sacrifice. Cost has gone up, but we've also have a good school finance program, careful budgeting process. There's fundraising, both at the diocesan and the local level, and value. When people know they're getting value, usually they're willing to sign up for this.
Do you have any initial areas of focus in general or priorities?
Meeting everybody. It's meeting everybody. Hoping to visit with the priests in the first weeks, get around to regional masses. It's really meeting people and getting to know a new church. Even though I lived in Washington, I do not pretend that I know Baltimore, and I'm not going to make assumptions. So I want to listen, I want to learn, and I want to really be part of Baltimore, and I want Baltimore to be part of me.
Has anyone called you Hun yet?
Called
you Hun in
Oh,
Baltimore?
yeah. Of course, people have called me Hun all my life. Much of my life is south of the Mason-Dixon line.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really working hard to say Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully I'm going to get that right. I've been up here with all the Yankees for 11 years, and probably will have to get used to some of these things. But I'll feel right at home in Baltimore. I'm a Maryland resident for a long time.
I know you said you've already had crab cakes, so you
love crab cakes, love rockfish.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is, truth in advertising. Not great with the soft shell, fellas.
Mm-hmm.
Those are a little prehistoric for me. But crab cakes, rockfish, oysters, pretty good.
It's the place to be.
Pretty good, yeah, pretty good.
I know you have dogs, or you have one dog.
I have one dog, yeah. I had two dogs. I had two golden retrievers named Barnes and Noble. Little Barney died December 7th of 2011. Another reason why December 7th lives in infamy. And Barney and Noble are two Goldens, litter mates, 6 years old. Barney was the alpha dog right out there. Noble, as his name would indicate, is a little more reserved. I hope Noble's going to like being the premier dog. And, his yard is going to be the yard of the oldest cathedral in the country. I mean, what's wrong with that? So I hope he'll adjust.
Will he come right away?
Oh, yeah, he's coming right away.
How do you think he'll adjust to city life?
I don't know, because here in Trumbull, he's had country life. I mean, this is like green acres out here. And he's got a couple of acres to roam around in, and all of that. Deer that he can chase off the property, Canada geese that he chases off the property, and just areas to run around. So we'll see. But I think if we feed him twice a day, he's going to be great.
Do you get to play with them or with your dog?
Yeah. The Noble is my constant companion whenever I'm home. And I'm hoping there'll be others that'll he likes the people who work here a lot. Mm-hmm. And they take good care of him too.
What's it going to be like for you to live in such a historic place at the Cardinal's, or the Archbishop residence?
It'll be a great honor, but it'll take some getting used to. I mean, I got 15 pictures of my predecessors looking at me at all times. And if that doesn't keep you in the straight and narrow, I don't know what will. But it's a beautiful, beautiful place. Adjoined right to the Basilica. One of the things I'm excited about is some Sunday nights, if I'm there, can maybe say an occasional Mass, hear confessions. I'm really looking forward to that. And God bless Cardinal Keeler for fixing it up. And God bless Cardinal O'Brien for making sure that the parish would be really a viable place. A lot of parishioners, and Monsignor Art is going to be a delight.
He's a great guy.
Looking forward to that.
You know about the earthquake damage.
I do. I knew there was an earthquake. Up here we felt the earthquake all the way up here. I didn't give it a second thought, but had I known I was going to Baltimore, I would have given it a second thought. I'm hoping there's no structural damage, and that insurance can cover it, and they'll get the work done over the summer, and we'll be up and running. It's such a beautiful place. So wonderful that Benjamin Latrobe could walk in right now and say, yes, this is what I designed. So beautiful.
And it's also the great symbol of religious freedom. I know that's been dear to your heart.
Well, I've been involved in religious freedom, sort of cut my teeth on the issue here when Connecticut was going to reorganize the Catholic Church according to the lines of the Congregational Church. As I've often said, it's great if you're a Congregationalist, not good if you're a Roman Catholic. So we've been alert here for a long time to religious liberty issues. Very happy Cardinal Dolan asked me to work on these issues, and I think the seat of John Carroll is a wonderful place to do this from, and I hope that God's grace will attend me and attend everybody working on this issue, because we really are at a pivotal moment in the United States.
No. Cardinal O'Brien has had to deal with that directly with the Baltimore City Council and the pregnancy centers.
He has.
There have been a lot of other things like that.
And he's the model of courage there. The beautiful pastoral letter that the bishops of Maryland wrote, it's really a model letter. And the Cardinal's forthrightness, Cardinal O'Brien's forthrightness in speaking up for marriage and speaking up the pregnancy centers, and just raising up the whole issue. He's a great student of history, and so he can speak about this not just in terms of current threats, but in terms of our whole heritage of religious liberty. So I feel like I'm in an awfully good place to try to do this job in the next couple of years.
I know Baltimore is also seeing an increase in immigrants, and we have that whole battle with the referendum, with the DREAM Act.
Yes. How
do you plan to reach out to immigrants and make them feel welcome?
The newly arrived, they're a source of growth for the church. We don't look upon it maybe in terms of the current immigration debate that's going on in our country. We look upon the newly arrived as pastors of souls, and we say how good they're here. The church in the United States, it's always been a church of immigrants. I'm the product of that. And I'm so grateful to the priests who, in the late 19th century and early 20th century, looked after my forebears. And so my way of saying thanks is to try to be a good pastor of souls to the newly arrived, whether it's here in Bridgeport or in Baltimore or any parts of the Archdiocese. So being present, finding ministers, trying to meet their needs concretely. The DREAM Act, supporting that, I'm delighted to do that. I think it's not only is it a good thing for the newly arrived, that's a good thing for our country. The immigrants are bringing talent, they're bringing manpower, they're bringing strong religious faith. boy, we ought to be happy they're here, and ought to make this what it was for our forebears, the land of opportunity, the land of freedom.
And of course we also have the referendum on same-sex marriage, and there'll be a lot to discuss in the fall.
Yes, a little money to raise, but first of all, again, Cardinal O'Brien, Cardinal Worrell, and Bishop Malooly have set the stage. They've set it well. And I'm kind of the new kid on the block, but I'm going to come in and join hands with my brother bishops in Maryland. We're going to teach about marriage, teach about family. We're going to try to be persuasive teachers. We're going to build coalitions wherever we can. And we think there's an awful lot of people in the state of Maryland that want to see traditional marriage as between a man and a woman protected. And I'm hopefully going to be one of those very persuasive voices in bringing this to fruition.
Do you anticipate testifying in Annapolis in the coming years?
Look, if I would testify before Congress, the United States a couple of times, and talk to a bunch of Congress members about a pork mandate being imposed on the Jewish kosher deli, well, I think I'll be happy to testify in Annapolis if, of course, that serves the good. You know, that's the big thing. Is it going to help the cause? If it will, and they want to hear from me, I'm ready and willing.
How would you describe your approach to leadership? What is your leadership style?
First of all, I'm a very, very committed Catholic. I'm a baptized Catholic. I love our faith. I think our faith, whole and entire, brings a vision of life, a vision of sanctity, a vision of justice and peace in society that is just beautiful. And so, first and foremost, my instinct is to teach, to share our teaching, to empower teachers. I know I don't teach alone. I want to stand with my priests, deacons as teachers, with our religious, catechist, school teachers, our moms and dads. I want them to be teachers of the faith. Teaching is really important. Monsignor Sokolowski, who teaches, a great philosopher, he says there are three things a bishop does: teaches, sanctifies, and governs. But if he wants to sanctify, and he wants to guide the church, he has to first and foremost be a teacher. So teaching, really important. Love teaching. Love doing it. And the Mount instilled that in me to a great extent. Listening. You gotta listen to the Word of God. You gotta listen to the teaching of the church. You gotta listen. I have to listen to my brother priests, deacons, all of my lay collaborators. Gotta listen. Have to be able to have their wisdom be shared with me appropriately, as I plan to make. Now, you can't just consult your whole long life. One bishop I remember years ago ruefully said to Cardinal Hickey, who was my great mentor in Washington, to whom I owe everything everlastingly. He said to Cardinal Hickey, he said, we're all geared up to consult, but not to make decisions. At some point I realize I have to make decisions too. And I'm willing to make them. Once I make them, I stand by them.
I've been talking to some people who know you, and they say one thing that comes up is you're a great doodler. Do you like to doodle?
Yeah, I like to doodle. My mom is actually a talented artist. She's painted the robins you see here on the wall,
really?
The eagles you could see in the dining room. She's done landscapes. She's done baby portraits that look like the specific baby, not like the one on the Gerber jars, the baby food jars. Mom is really a talented artist. I'm a hack. But I like doodling. And always have done little cartoons and doodles. And archivists in Washington, Bridgeport, and now Baltimore will be finding my doodles all over papers that I should really be keeping clean.
Do you have other hobbies or interests?
Love history. Like to read about New Deal history, World War II history, Woodrow Wilson, Florence Harding, Harry Truman, Dwight Eisenhower, right up to a really present time. So history is of great, great interest to me. Of course, with a dog, you have an inbuilt hobby. Work out every day, try to do an hour on the elliptical. Won't get it done today, but most days I do it. And just try to, try to stay tuned, And not a lot of time for reading, but have a great abiding interest in theology. And I try to keep up with that by fits and starts.
What is the last book or last movie you've read or seen?
The book I'm actually reading is The Life of Archbishop Edwin O'Hara, written by Cardinal Dolan. He gave it to a bunch of us. Maybe it was when he became a cardinal. And I just started reading it. I've just finished that. Right now, I'm also rereading the Premier C. And I'm not just saying that. I read it years in '89 when the bicentennial took place, and it was given out, and I got my own copy and read it. And also, a priest here in Bridgeport gave me Cardinal Sheehan's memoirs called The Blessing of Years, and I've just been rereading that as well. I'm reading an issue of Communio. It's called a Symposium on Veritas and Caritate. Happens to be my new motto in honor of Cardinal Hickey and Cardinal Sheehan. And so that's kind of been my reading lately. And my last book of history, I cannot remember the name of the author, but it's called 1960. It's about the election of 1960 and how John F. Kennedy and Richard Nixon got the nomination. Mm-hmm. Very chatty book and a very interesting book. So that's what I've been reading lately.
I know when you were in Baltimore, you said that you like to pray the Rosary as well. Do you have other spiritual devotions?
Yeah, I do. The Rosary is a mainstay prayer because you can do it anywhere, everywhere. When the plane is turbulent, out comes the Rosary. Before I drift off to sleep at night, Rosary is there. I don't practice it in a scientific way, but I love to do at least a version of Lectio Divina. Reading the Scriptures. That's so important for preaching, so important for feeling close to the Lord Jesus. Periodically I do novenas, for example, a novena to the Holy Spirit leading up to Pentecost, done the Divine Mercy Chaplet. It's beautiful, life-giving devotion. Those would be some of the things that I like to do, and sometimes there's just no substitute of a beautiful chapel here, thanks to the Knights of Columbus, and I just go there and sit and be with the Lord. He gazes at me and I gaze at him.
Do you expect to remain active with the Knights?
Yes, I do, yeah. In fact, the Knights have been so good to me and such a source of support that as long as they'll have me, I'm happy to be their chaplain. I greatly admire Carl Anderson, what a fine leader, one of the finest leaders I think I'll ever meet, and a great man of spirituality, great family man, great businessman, and a man who understands Catholic teaching and Catholic theology very, very deeply. Very deeply.
I know in your press conference in Baltimore you really emphasized the new evangelization and trying to reach people. How do you do that? What are the practical ways of reaching out to people that just don't seem interested in God or faith?
Well, there are lots of things to do, but as I mentioned today's homily, first thing is for us who are priests to not only be the signs of Christ's love, but also to let people know, just by what we say and do, that we're engaged in the struggle to live our faith, to become holy. And that makes our witness to the faith authentic. People see that in us. They are willing to let us help them scratch the surface, create an opening for the Lord and for His love, and maybe then to envision their life, what it would be like with a warm, loving relationship with Christ, a strong connection to the church. And I think that's what we all have to do to really do the new evangelization. All the programmatic things flow from that. All of them. You don't do the programs first and the spirituality second. You do it just the opposite.
Sounds like you're pretty excited about coming to Baltimore. You must
Excited
also be
going to miss
difficult.
Bridgeport. It's like leaving home, absolutely. But yes, and everyone has been so warm and so welcoming. Really, really looking forward to this with happy anticipation.
Anything else you'd like to say?
Well, yes. I recognize I'm coming to a beautiful, vital community. And I'm going to ask everybody's prayers, everybody's patience as I get to know it. And I just pray that I'm going to be a good priest, a holy bishop, and a wise gentleman. And if everyone prays for that, I think the Lord will help us together build this civilization of life and love. So, anxious to come down and roll up my sleeves.